Ceasefire reached. Trump announced it about an hour ago. Ceasefire reached between Israel and Hamas over there in Gaza. Ceasefire reached, guys. That's good news. Trump does it again. What? No matter if you like him or not, he ended that deal because we seen all the times I went live about the Gaza Strip, how those people were being treated. It's ending, guys. Hamas has agreed to release all the hostages ASAP to end the war. The first stage of the war is ending. Shout out to Donald Trump for making the deal happen. And all the other leaders in the world that came together and put that deal together. Shout out to everybody that worked on that deal with Donald Trump to make it possible. Hold on a second, guys. I got to move something over there. Because, yeah, we seen how those people were getting treated over there, and that was not a pretty sight. It was not. So it's good to hear that it's officially the first step of it being open. Now we got to see if Hamas really gonna, ship those hostages and release them. I shouldn't say ship, but release the hostages, as they say. They're supposed to release live, the ones that's live and unalive. So that's good news. That's good news. That's good news. Let me see. Let me get this over here. Yeah, breaking news. Donald Trump did it again, guys. He stopped another war. He stopped another one. Let's see. Man, those people were getting done bad over there, guys. We were seeing they was dropping those pallets down, and those pallets was landing on people. If you was on the channel when we was playing that live that day, what they were using those helicopters, and they were dropping pallets of food, but the pallets were landing and killing people. Let's see. Now I'm back. Yep, those pallets were landing on people. It was a sad sight to see. And then, like, the scene was like Hunger Games, right? Where they had to walk miles and miles and miles to get to the food. But when they get there, it's a bowl of slop. And they're fighting over bowls of slop. Great news, guys. Ceasefire reached in Gaza. Trump does it again. Trump did it again, man. Stopped another war. Now he has one more left. He got to stop that war between Russia and Ukraine. That one is next on the list. So come on, we're going to watch this, get a little feedback. Donald Trump just did it again. Israel and Hamas reached the deal, and phase 1 of the peace plan is in motion right now. This means all the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw troops as agreed upon in the first step for peace. Shout out to everybody that was involved with this great deal. Let's go.
On the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the captives will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps towards a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel, all surrounding nations, and the United States of America. And we thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed are the peacemakers. It ended.
Garrett Marshall, now they will never go to war again. Hopefully that's what it is, Hopefully this is ended. No more wars. Hopefully this ended it. but you never know what might happen in the future. But as of right now, it looks like it's going in the right direction.
Well, celebrations have erupted in Khan Yunis in Gaza.
Look, guys, they're celebrating on the Gaza Strip. They're celebrating.
Palestinians are in the streets chanting and dancing in response to the announcement that a ceasefire has now been agreed, and the news is spreading across the Strip, where cheering can be heard at many of the displacement camps. Well, it's still in the early hours of the morning in Gaza, where Palestinians are beginning to wake up to the announcement that a ceasefire has been agreed. Scenes of jubilation are being filmed by Palestinian journalists as relief at the thought of an end to the violence spreads. Let's go back to Hani Mahmoud, who's live for us from Al Zaweda, that's in central Gaza. Hani, we've been talking to you throughout the night. We've been looking at those scenes of jubilation. What's the feeling in Gaza now?
Well, Darren, throughout the day, again, a lot of people were expressing their hopes, but they were very cautious about what they expressed, what they shared with us. They were often shared that one thread that there is an anxiety on the rise. They would feel that this might be a fragile ceasefire agreement, similar to the past one, and will not fulfill what they aspire for. But it does seem this time it's a little bit different. The way it's been done, the way it has been going through very aggressive and very focused negotiations in Egypt, as well as the announcement that was made by, or the post that was made by Donald Trump about reaching an agreement. All of this enthusiasm together, gradually changing the mood on the ground. People started to have a little bit of faith now that this time it's going to happen. We're going to see an actual end, because it's very systematic, moving from one phase to another, starting with the release of the captives from the Gaza Strip and then the withdrawal of the Israeli military. But let me share with you one thing that one of the person here shared with us earlier before the announcement was made that it was an agreement. He said the easiest part would be the release of the captives. Palestinians here are going to be dealing with money.
Yeah, this morning, guys, I was on mute the whole time I was talking. So today has not been a good day for streaming for me. This morning, I had hiccups with the stream. On the walk down, it just automatically cut off for some reason. So, and right now, it's not looking right. And I'm not going to restart this. I'm just going to rock with it like it is. See, sometimes, guys, in life, right, it might not go the way you want it to go, and you just got to roll with it. You know what I'm saying? But my camera ain't showing right at this moment. So we going to rock with it just like it is. We got 57 people in the building. Appreciate y'all for joining me. Appreciate y'all for rocking with me. And if you was on the live this morning, I apologize, because I was talking and the whole time I was on mute and didn't know it. So today has not been, as far as streaming goes, today has probably been my worst day, guys. But we got to keep it going. Appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Appreciate y'all for rocking with me. But the good news is, we are entering the first phase of the Gaza ceasefire plan. This is good news, guys.
Much more difficult conditions on the ground created by these past 2 years, the devastation, destruction, the trauma, the psychological impact on people, the fact that people lost everything. These are much harder to deal with, and they might be the reason to erode that sense of happiness and excitement. The moment the dust settles, people will realize that they are left alone, they are left without anything, particularly those who lost families. So these are the mixed feelings, the mixed messages that we're hearing from people. But that did not stop some of the people, particularly in Gaza City, that has been subjected to relentless bombardment over the past few weeks, to take the streets in jubilation and excitement and happiness, because it was just the difference between life and death for them. These were these minutes between the announcement and then to see a reduction in the amount of.
What's up, Nicole? Appreciate you for joining the stream. Hope you're having a great night.
The attacks, but as we speak, you probably can hear in the background the fighter jets still hovering, and that seems to.
Wait, guys, is that a cigarette he got in his
Israeli
mouth?
military last
Yep.
minute house clean
Did y'all see that, guys? They smoking cigarettes on the Gaza Strip.
up, sort of, or as they describe it, but we're not going to see a complete state of calm across the strip until there is an official statement that requires an end of bombardment of the Gaza Strip. Even though the past couple of days Donald Trump made a demand to the Israeli Prime Minister that to hold bombing of Gaza, but we did not see that happening. The attacks continued, and they're actually continuing as of this moment, but not at the same level as we've seen in the past a few days, not at the same intensity and not at the same level of destruction. But let's just remind our viewers, from the time that Donald Trump made the demand that the Israeli military or Israel hold bombing Gaza, stop the bombings of Gaza City, till today, 118 people were killed. That's from the time he made that demand. So it will be interesting to see how this will play itself out.
Wait, guys, y'all see, is he smoking a cigarette or is that a blunt? Let me find out. They got blunts over there in Gaza.
Now, with an agreement that has been reached, a public post made by Donald Trump, we'll see if the Israeli military is interested in holding the attacks on Gaza or elsewhere across the strip, or is it going to continue until the last minute?
And Hani, as you've been telling us all night, Gaza has faced utter destruction. Most of the strip is now unlivable. So how do people now go about returning to their...
If most of the strip is unlivable, how are they getting cigarettes? Now, we've seen the devastation of this war. How are they able to get cigarettes?
Lives and livelihoods. What are the challenges they face now as this deal starts to take hold?
It'll be very difficult to see how people are coping with the level of destruction that's been inflicted across the Gaza Strip. It was designed in a way to make the entire strip quite unlivable, uninhabitable. The pace, the patterns of attacks, the fact that not just homes were destroyed, public facilities, infrastructures, schools, clinics, and hospitals, all destroyed. Even places designated for special needs, for schools designated for special needs, and for people with the special.
That's kind of weird, right, Chad? They can't get food, but they can get cigarettes. Wait a second. These guys are smoking cigarettes. Okay.
Conditions all destroyed to the point now you can be at any area in the center part of Gaza City and look toward the east or the northern part and see vast field of empty pocket of lands or vast field of rubble compared to what they used to look like, densely populated, vibrant, with lots of people, of shops and mosques and schools and hospitals. None of this exists anymore. So this is one of the things when all means of life have been or are deliberately destroyed. It's a perfect recipe for people to leave, which something interestingly the Israeli politicians, Israeli military have called over the past months at the height of the genocidal acts on the ground, voluntary immigration for Palestinians. No, when you create these conditions on the ground, you are forcing people to leave. This is nothing voluntary about destroying all means of life across the strip. So it'll be very difficult. The challenge, again, the person who shared with us the easiest part would be releasing the...
Yeah, you're probably right. They're going to make sure they have their cigarettes and their liquor. And they're going to make sure of that. To keep them calm, I guess.
But the hardest part will be rebuilding shattered lives. And again, shattered lives here is not just the physical outlook of it. It's not the buildings. walking across Gaza streets, seeing buildings. I try as much as I can not to see rubble and ruins. My mind always try to reimagine that these were colorful buildings filled of laughter, children playing outside, people dining or gathering, or behind the walls, people had their family gatherings. All of this is gone now because of the ongoing, or because of the bombardment and all the genocidal acts on the ground over the past 2 years. This is the part I think families will find very hard to reestablish, particularly when we talk about entire families have been wiped out. We have one family that just survived these attacks. It would be very difficult.
This is good news, guys. It's good news. Trump does it again. Got to give him his credit, guys. He did it. He helped put together all of the things in place to broker this deal. He did it. You got to give him his credit, guys. He's doing it. Another war for peace. That's what Trump did. He negotiated and put all the things in place to make this happen. Shout out to Donald Trump and all the great leaders that helped with this.
For them to restart or rebuild their lives, or to start life as they know it before. That's the real challenge on the ground.
Hani, just a final thought to you. I mean, you've been covering the war since day one, so for 2 years, and I know it's been very difficult for you personally as well. At times I've been speaking to you, and I know the scenes of what you're seeing has brought you close to tears. What about the loss of so many of your Al Jazeera journalist colleagues, Hani? People...
Yes. Cleophas, that's the real question. Who will pay to rebuild? Look at this. Look how this looks, guys. Who's going to? We are. I'm gonna say it. I said it. The American taxpayers are going to be the ones that help rebuild this country. I said it. That's what's going to happen, guys.
Who were telling the stories of the suffering in Gaza and were then silenced by Israel.
You know, this particular part almost got me emotional, because I was just speaking to my colleagues, and I was hoping many of our dear colleagues were still alive and shared with us and joined with us this moment that we describe now. Talk about a ceasefire, potential agreement, an end to the suffering, an end to the misery, because we know they were hoping this to happen, particularly our colleagues from the network, from Al Jazeera, who worked day and night, who covered every bit of the evolving suffering and tragedies across the Gaza Strip. They were among the very reasons brought attention to the world of the enforced dehydration and starvation, of the famine here. Without their hard work, without their commitment, the world would not have seen these reports. And I particularly speak about our colleagues here from the network and other journalists from other networks as well, on other platforms. But that's the part that we get very emotional about it, because...
Are y'all seeing this, chat? Look how this place is tore up from the floor up. This place is tore up from the floor up. Man.
We spend so much time with these journalists as colleagues, as brothers, as people we see on the ground. We cooperated, we coordinated.
Yeah, you're right, J Jack 2000. The U.S. will pay to rebuild Gaza because Trump wants hotels there. You're absolutely right.
Reports, in Gaza.
See, also, Chad, remember when they was rebuilding Afghanistan? They were paying big money to go over there and work and help rebuild Afghanistan. Maybe the same thing will happen with Gaza. They're going to be hiring. They're going to be hiring. Americans can go over there and go work. I know people during the Afghanistan war. I know people personally. They paid them big money to go overseas and go work in Afghanistan. That's the same thing that's going to happen here. So guys, if you don't have a job, don't be surprised if all of a sudden you start seeing construction companies hiring to go to Gaza and rebuild the Gaza Strip?
Here, it's sealed off. Sometimes equipments are not available here, and you needed some of the tools. You would rely on your colleagues from either from your network or from other networks in order to help you. And the more you dealt with them, the more you get closer, the more you get used to them, and it becomes very difficult that they are gone now. And that's the emotional trauma that we are going through now. And we definitely wished if they were around to join us at this particularly, I would say, exciting and happy moment to report about an end to the genocide. Hopefully, we're all hoping and praying that this time it's going to be real, it's not fragile, it's going to hold, and it's going to bring at least a peace of mind and a tranquility for people who never experienced it for a whole entire 2 years.
All right, Al Jazeera's Hani Mahmoud live for us there in Al Zaida. Hani, will no doubt come back to you a little bit later. But for now, Hani, thank you. Well, Hamas officials...
You, the Trump administration, for doing everything you can to bring them home. Let's do it.
Al Jazeera's Hamda Salute joins us live now from the Jordanian capital, Amman, and she's there.
The thing is, guys, releasing the hostages, the living and the unliving. That's the thing that has to be done tonight, today. Releasing, that's phase one of this war to end. They have to release the living and the unliving. Then that's when Israel's supposed to withdraw the troops. Let's see if that happens, guys.
Because the Israeli government's banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel and the occupied West Bank. Hamda, so the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has invited Trump to address the Israeli Knesset. We heard from him earlier on, heaping praise on Donald Trump for this deal. What more can you tell us about this invite and what Trump's expected to do once he gets to Israel?
Well, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and U.S. President Donald Trump held a phone call shortly after Trump announced the deal on his social media account, Truth Social. And they said that this was a very emotional call. It was one filled with a lot of praise for the American leader. And in that same call, Netanyahu invited Trump not only to Israel, but to address the Israeli parliament. And speaking to the American news site Axios, Trump said that in the coming days, he will be heading to Israel. And if the government wants him to address the Knesset, then that's something he would do if the time is right, and he's certainly not against it. It's worth mentioning that the reason why we are here, the reason why we're at a ceasefire deal, is because of President Trump's pressure on Netanyahu. Israel was growing increasingly isolated internationally, politically, economically.
Y'all heard what she just said. Y'all want to know the reason what Trump's role was? She just told us. Trump was pressuring Netanyahu to end this war.
Becoming somewhat of a pariah in the international community, and President Trump was privy to that, saying that Israel is now alone in the world and it's up to him to restore its standing within the global community. So that's where Trump's head is at. Netanyahu seemingly wanting to take some credit for this, even though this plan was by the American leader himself. Netanyahu releasing a flurry of statements in the last couple of hours, saying that it's because of Israel's military pressure. It's because of Israel's continuous military activity. It's because of the objectives that Netanyahu had outlined in the beginning of the war. That's why they reached this point. But the reality on the ground shows a much different story. Most of the captives who were released from the Gaza Strip were done through diplomatic means, through these ceasefire deals, or through direct negotiations with the Americans. It wasn't really due to these advanced military operations that the army and the government alike were touting. Now, Netanyahu is not just under pressure internationally, but domestically from the family members of those hostages who've been held for 2 years and a day, who have been advocating for their release every week, protesting, taking to the streets, saying that they have no faith in their own leadership. And if you look on social media, if you see the statements from their family members, if you see anything relating to the captives and their families from the last week or so, it's all been thanks to President Trump. It's all been thanks to the U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff. There's been no praise or thanks to the prime minister, because this is a population who believe that Netanyahu got in the way of many deals, like back in July of 2024, when mediators said they were at the finish line. But at the 11th hour, Netanyahu decided to insert new conditions and essentially reneged on the entire agreement. Back in August, Hamas was presented a new agreement brought forward to them by mediators that had nearly 90% of what Israel wanted, saying that the rest of the issues could be hashed out within the first week of negotiations. But Israel never responded, and the Israeli public was also privy to that, saying that their government was standing in the way of a deal. Netanyahu was prolonging the war for his own personal and political gain, and in the last 2 years, his popularity, he and his right-wing governments alike, have waned significantly. Recent polling by the Israel Democracy Institute found that more than half of the people wanted Netanyahu to take accountability for what happened on October the 7th, because it was due to Israel's security failures under the Netanyahu government. He is the longest-serving prime minister in Israel's history, so they say he is responsible for what happened as the person who was in charge for the longest time in recent history. So there's also these calls for this independent commission and inquiry into what exactly happened on October the 7th, what led to these.
Doomshot say, looks like Portland. Man, I hope Portland don't go out like this, because they tore this place up. I hope Portland don't look like that.
Failures. What procedures were not in place that Israel could have reached a point like that an attack like that could have happened so easily along the Gaza border, a place that is supposed to be one of the most secure in Israel. So there are all of those calls for the commission. Netanyahu has said that he doesn't want any of that done until the war is over. But now with this ceasefire deal that has been signed, the clock is ticking. In a few hours' time, the Israeli government is set to convene to approve this. Then there will be around 24 hours where the military will have to withdraw to that first line that was outlined by U.S. President Donald Trump in a map also posted on social media. And then Hamas will have 72 hours to hand over the living captives, all of them at once. We're estimating that'll happen around Monday. And I'll remind our viewers that there are 48 hostages still being held in Gaza, 20 of them presumed to be alive.
Yeah, and Hamda, we were talking to Hani Mahmoud in Al-Zawayda in central Gaza about the situation on the ground. He was saying it's quite surreal in Gaza. No drones flying and no sound of explosions. To what extent, then, has Israel already started to wind down military operations across Gaza, for now at least?
Well, let's not forget the demand by the American president just a few days ago, saying that he asked Israel to stop all of its bombing of the Gaza Strip. But of course, that didn't happen, because in the days after that, there were more than 1,000 Palestinians who were killed as a result. So as to when the bombardment itself, when the shooting is going to stop, that's still unclear. Even though it seems a little bit quieter now, things could change, because the deal actually hasn't been inked yet. It will be inked tomorrow in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, where these indirect talks have been taking place. But it'll be certainly a sense of relief for the people of Gaza, who for the last 2 years and a day have been going through absolute hell. 92% of all residential buildings have been destroyed. Most infrastructure inside of Gaza has been completely leveled. More than 125 hospitals and medical clinics completely destroyed or damaged. More than 2,300 educational facilities and institutions reduced to nothing. This is a population that has suffered at the hands of the Israeli military for more than 2 years. And it's worth mentioning that the blockade on Gaza was going on for nearly 2 decades before that. But since this war began, nearly 2 million Palestinians have been forcibly displaced time and time time again. More than 67,000 Palestinians killed, nearly 200,000 people injured, many of them with lifelong injuries. The number of children amputees inside of Gaza is the largest in the world. Many of the people who are injured are now living with lifelong injuries, maimed for life. Hospitals and doctors have nothing to work with because of a health system that has been decimated by Israeli forces. So people are in need of this much needed humanitarian aid, of food, of clean water. Nearly 500 people have died from starvation as a result of Israel's siege, as a result of the blockade on food, water, shelter, and any other resources that you would need to live, because the Palestinian territory has essentially been reduced to nothing. That's why Israel has grown increasingly isolated. But if you ask Israeli politicians, if you ask those who are in the Israeli government, they say that they are doing what's right, that they don't target civilians. But time and time again, we have known that not to be true. Just look at how many journalists have been killed in this conflict. Many human rights organizations say that Gaza is not only the most dangerous place in the world to be a journalist, but it is the most dangerous place in the world to be a human being.
Hamda, just a final quick thought to you. We've talked about how this impacts Gaza and what this could mean for Gaza. But what does the deal then mean for the families of the captives who've waited so long for this moment in Israel?
Golly.
Well, it'll certainly be a sense of relief for them too.
Chat, look at that footage. Place is demolished.
Who've been advocating for the release of their loved ones for more than 2 years. They point the finger at Netanyahu, saying that he didn't actually care about the captives. He didn't want them back. And this was a huge criticism of the Israeli government, that if their main priority and goal was to bring back the hostages, then the war could have ended a long time ago with a deal with many concessions. But that's not what Netanyahu and his government wanted. They had several different objectives and goals that they listed out post-October 7, 2023. One of them was the complete defeat of Hamas politically and militarily. It's something they haven't been able to achieve. None of the goals have actually been achieved through these military means. The second goal was to ensure that Gaza no longer posed a threat to Israel. But the third was to release the captives. Netanyahu maintained that he was doing everything he could to bring about the release of the captives, and he wanted to do it through military means. He wanted to achieve.
Hey, what's up, Naomi? Appreciate you for joining.
This absolute victory. But the family members of hostages called him out, saying that that was simply a lie, that that wasn't true. Because if he wanted that, it could have happened a long time ago. There were many deals on the table that the Israelis walked away from that Hamas had actually agreed to. Some of them, in fact, right after the war began. There was a ceasefire nearly a month after the war began in 2023, but that lasted just around a week or so. The ceasefire in January, Israel also breaking in March earlier this year. So people said that they were afraid people were going to get left behind in Gaza, that the increased bombardment there was going to kill the captives, that the Israeli operation in Gaza City to occupy it and take it over was going to endanger the lives of captives. Let's also not forget that the Israeli military has killed many of their own captives, not just with airstrikes, but they've also shot and killed some of their own captives almost 2 years ago when they were calling out for help in a nearby building. But they were then shot by Israeli forces. And this was something the Israeli military had to admit to on the record, not only to the family members of those hostages, but to the Israeli public and the world. This caused a lot of outcry about how the Israeli military operation was going in general. Was it going to fail? Because after 2 years, they couldn't defeat Hamas on the ground. They still haven't. And now through this deal, they see it both as a political and military win, because Hamas is going to be demilitarized. They're going to be ousted. They're not going to have any sort of say in Gaza. And this is something that's certainly going to be a discussion within the Israeli cabinet tomorrow when this comes to a vote. Ultimately, we are expecting it to pass. But what family members are saying is that this is no thanks to Netanyahu, that this is all the doing of the American president, and that they're incredibly appreciative of that.
All right, Al Jazeera's Hamda Salute live for us there in the Jordanian capital, Amman. Hamda, for now, thank you. Well, Daniel Levy is president of the U.S. Middle East Project and a former Israeli negotiator. He says while the ceasefire deal brings hope, it's likely that Israel could resume hostilities in Gaza once Hamas returns the captives.
Well, one absolutely has to hope that this is going to be seen through to implementation. Of course, monumentous for those being held who are Israeli, for their families, who had largely given up that their government gave a damn, to be honest. And of course, for the people in Gaza who faced daily atrocities, killings, war crimes.
I don't know, Chad. I got a feeling that this ain't gonna go right. Everything has to go according to plan for the whole process to work. I got a feeling. This is my opinion. These are my thoughts. I got a feeling something ain't gonna go right. And if it don't go right, we back to square one. Like Proof Oak said, this is just the first phase. So what they have to do on the first phase, they got to free the hostages. Then Israel and Bibi have agreed to back the troops up. Also, what's inside of the agreement is that Hamas has to get rid of all its weapons. All this has to go correctly for it really, really to work out. And to be honest with you, my thoughts is, I don't think they really wanted to just work out like that. Unless what Bibi is getting is everything that he wants. And I'm not sure Hamas is absolutely going to do that. We're going to see. Right. That's yes. They got to give up all their weapons. In my opinion, as I'm thinking about it, everything has to go perfect for this to happen. Any slight thing that's off by a little bit, Bibi is going to complete the job, the mission, which is to take over the whole strip.
Starvation, and indeed for the Palestinian families and for those being held in Israeli prisons.
Let me know what y'all think about that, chat. Let me know y'all thoughts. Let me know y'all thoughts, chat.
Who will now see freedom, but that depends, first of all, on this initial arrangement being implemented. But Darren, we are not on our first rodeo here, and if history is any guide, and just judging by what Netanyahu said already that contradicts what is in the deal, and depending on what he tells his coalition allies, is he going to be saying, for instance, to Ben Gvir and Smotrich, you can dislike this, maybe you vote against, maybe you even quit, but don't bring down the government, because, and this is really important, and I think those Israelis who are hoping this comes to an end will know that Netanyahu has reneged on these deals in the past and may well be looking for the first opportunity to be able to resume hostilities when he can in Gaza. In the meantime, one should absolutely expect that the destruction, the displacement, the killing in the West Bank will continue. We saw Ben Gvir on Al-Aqsa today, and one should also assume whatever the initial arrangement, whatever the initial line of Israeli military withdrawal ends up being, that is where it will end. Because I think once the hostages are returned, one should fully expect that Israel.
But it's good to see the people cheering and happy, because we have not been seeing that. We've been seeing the people basically walking to the food. Like, we've been seeing them like distressed. So for me to see them like happy and smoking cigarettes, and I feel good for them right now. But something's telling me that it ain't gonna work out correctly. I hope I'm wrong, because it's good to see them people happy and smoking cigarettes and dancing. It's good to see them people trying to believe that maybe it's over and maybe we can start to rebuild.
Israel will not withdraw further one should fully expect that Israel will go back to playing this game of how can we make it as hard as possible for the international aid, humanitarian assistance so desperately needed to get into Gaza. And we will be in this game of stop, start. Will Israel try and use these armed militias that it has supported in Gaza to cause mayhem? So I think the first thing is, can we get this initial phase over the line? But then everyone should absolutely expect that this is going to be an extremely bumpy road, apparently with no guarantees.
Well, we're waiting for details on what the final ceasefire plan looks like. Here's what it stood before those negotiations concluded. At the moment, Israeli forces control all areas up to the blue line you see on the screen. The plan said once both sides agreed to the proposal, the war would end immediately and Israeli forces would withdraw to the agreed line, which is in yellow, to prepare for the release of the captives. Then, after all the requirements set out in the US 20-point plan are met and an international stabilization force is deployed, Israeli forces will move further back to the red line.
Israel Army current line of control. Initial withdrawal, the yellow line. Third withdrawal, the blue line. Second withdrawal is the red line. Third withdrawal is the blue line. US 20-point plan for Gaza.
And the final withdrawal would see the Israelis move progressively further back towards the Israeli border,
buffer zone,
according to an agreement they would make with the Transitional Authority. But they would continue to maintain a security buffer zone inside Gaza's borders, including its crossing with Egypt. Let's bring in Tariq Khalil. He's a US attorney and Palestinian rights activist. He joins us live from Chicago.
That, in my opinion, is a complete takeover over this Gaza Strip.
Illinois. Good to have you with us, Tariq. So Trump says this is a great day for the Muslim and Arab world. How cautious should we be, though, that this is only the first phase of a very complicated deal and this could fall apart very quickly?
Yes, that's precisely why we should be cautious. The fact that this is an agreement on the initial phase is almost entirely in Israel's interest, which is basically centering on the prisoner exchange, not on a permanent end to the genocidal campaign. And that's what should have been at the cornerstone of this. But we're living in a moment where the Palestinians are in dire need of respite. They deserve their rest. So in that sense, this should be welcomed as...
Look at them, Chad. They smoking big cigarettes.
As something that is desperately needed for the Palestinian people. And the unhindered entry of aid, which I mean has been highlighted time and again that the Palestinians desperately need. I mean, 68,000 dead, approximately 200,000 wounded, and the health infrastructure decimated. So the Palestinians in Gaza deserve this at this moment, but we should be very cautious of what this basically spells out. This is tantamount to the Oslo Accords. The Oslo Accords was basically an agreement to negotiate, and that's what this is, an agreement for further negotiations. The Oslo Accords left out the core issues: refugees, Jerusalem, borders, settlements, and other matters. They were left for future negotiations, and now here we are, nearly 30 years since Oslo, and those have not been fulfilled. So on that basis alone, we should absolutely be cautious.
Yeah, let's just talk about the situation on the ground, Tariq, because as we're talking to you, we're seeing some file footage we have here of the utter destruction in Gaza. What do you think this deal means to the people of Gaza now? I mean, as you say, 67,000 killed, they've suffered death and destruction on an industrial scale under the genocide for 2 years. Momentous time, I guess, but still very cautious about the future of the deal.
I mean, look at what is being omitted from this. There have been reports that suggest it could take up to 2 decades or more to just rebuild Gaza and remove the rubble, and it will cost approximately tens of billions of dollars to actually rebuild Gaza. So we're talking 10, 20, 30 years into the future just to get back to the status quo pre-October 7th.
Wow, they say it's gonna take about Well, that makes sense. 10 or 20 years. I think that's how long it took for them to rebuild Afghanistan. So this is going to be a 10 to 20 year play.
So that is completely dismissed and omitted as a crucial component of this. And what does this say about the siege and blockade? So an end to the genocidal campaign, but what about the 17-year siege and blockade? What about the 56, 57-year military occupation? What about the 77 years of dispossession, displacement? The Palestinians in Gaza have been displaced multiple times over the last 77 years and multiple times over the last 2 years. Approximately 90% of the population has been displaced, some more than once, some more than twice, some more than 3 times. Where is that in the discussion? Obviously, there's a lot of pressure that's being put on Hamas, and there's a lot of pressure that is being put on Israel as well to come away with some modicum of a peace agreement. And let's remember what this deal is not. While it is touted as a peace deal, it leaves Gaza still in pieces. And that is something that is completely omitted from.
Tomorrow, what use is it saying here on Alive? I don't know what you mean, tomorrow. Horrible. I don't know what you explain yourself a little bit more.
The discussion that should be at the core of this, a permanent end to the genocide. And that is something that should be our departure point. And unfortunately, it's not.
Tariq, we heard from the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres earlier on. He gave out a statement. He said the deal should recognize the right to self-determination of the Palestinian people and leading to a two-state solution. But I mean, how far away are we from that now?
We're still far from a UN perspective, but on the ground, especially here in the US, there's been a huge shift. There's been an entire wave of support for Palestinian rights and Palestinian self-determination here in the US and the
Yeah, they need to release the Epstein files.
West globally as well. And we should build from that grassroots support, and that will eventually lead to governmental change. I mean, look, now you have a global consensus.
In my opinion, I think the Epstein files will be released.
Consensus that what Israel is doing in Gaza is a genocide. You have the most esteemed international human rights organizations, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch. You have
eventually, I think they will be released.
Independent organizations, Doctors Without Borders, and the UN Investigative Commission, and even Israeli human rights organizations, B'Tselem and Physicians for Human Rights, that have called what is happening in Gaza a genocide. So the narrative is changing, and from that narrative, we can eventually pursue something that is worthwhile for the Palestinian people. And look, at the end of this, the ultimate objective is the liberation of the Palestinian people from the river to the sea, and that obviously includes Gaza.
Tariq,
I don't know if you was here when this is a replay right here, that exclusive with them fighting over the food. I remember this day. We were live right here watching this. Look how they're fighting over this food, and then it's like some yellow liquid stuff. Like, man, they's doing them real bad.
Final thought to you before you go on the issue of ICC accountability. Let's remind our viewers that Netanyahu has an ICC arrest warrant against his name for committing genocide in Gaza. What about accountability? Does he go unpunished? What happens next?
Well, actually, just a quick correction there. Genocide should be added.
Look what they're giving them.
Arrest warrants. The arrest warrants.
Look what they was giving them, guys. And the young guys are knocking the women and the kids out of the way. They deborn and getting them all out of the way. They had to walk miles and miles and miles to get to this point. And look what they're giving them. You got young, strong men, youngsters, knocking them out of the way, knocking the old women and the kids out of the way.
Charge them with
get their
7
food.
War crimes and crimes against humanity.
They push that kid out of the way. Y'all see they push the kid out of the way?
starvation as a weapon of war, persecution, willful murder, extermination. But genocide has not been tacked on to the ICC arrest warrants, and they absolutely should be, because what Netanyahu has done in Gaza has been the first live stream genocide in the history of the world. I think this is something that is absolutely crucial in furthering the Palestinian justice, because once Netanyahu was finally dragged into the Hague, and that's the narrative that we need to put forward, especially here in the United States.
That's the yellow stuff I was talking about. And BB was trying to tell us that those people are getting 3,000 calories a meal. That's what he told us last week. Remember, guys? Remember, chat? When we were streaming BB's address, he tried to tell us that those people were getting 3,000 calories per meal.
Convince maybe not this president, but future president, president to arrest.
Look at that, chat. BB tried to tell us that that's 3,000 calories per meal.
Netanyahu, if he ever steps foot into the United States again, that would be a step toward real victory.
All right, Tariq Khalil, U.S. attorney and
Did y'all see? They hitting that woman in the head with the pot.
Palestinian rights activist there from
Bro.
Chicago. Tariq, many thanks for your time, sir. Thank you. Well, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres has responded to the announcement on X, saying, "I welcome the announcement of an agreement to secure a ceasefire and hostage release in Gaza. I urge all concerned to abide fully by the terms of the agreement. All hostages must be released in a dignified manner, and a permanent ceasefire must be secured. The fighting must stop once and for all. The UN will support the full implementation of the agreement and will scale up the delivery of sustained and principled humanitarian relief. I urge all stakeholders to seize this momentous opportunity to establish a credible political path towards ending the occupation, recognizing the right to self-determination of the Palestinian people and leading to a two-state solution. The stakes have never been higher." Let's bring in William Lawrence. He's a professor of international relations at American University. He joins us live from Washington. William, always good to have you with us. So look, President Trump says this is a great day for the... Scenes of jubilation are being filmed by Palestinians.
This is what I like seeing, guys. You know, this what I like seeing right here. They happy. You know, I hope it works out.
Palestinian journalist says relief at the thought of an end to the 2 years of Israel's genocide in Gaza. More than 67,000 Palestinians have been killed and nearly 2 million have been displaced. And in Tel Aviv, emotional scenes as families react to the news that all captives held in Gaza.
Demetria, the American doctors who went to Gaza to help said there was no food. Israel was stopping aid to the people. The American doctors showed pics of starving babies. Tomorrow are. But to what end? Even if it ends, they'll teach their kids to continue to hate the news for a lifetime. Unless they really change, this will keep happening. Those kids are all I care about.
Will be brought home. US President Donald Trump says they could be released on Monday.
Now let's get some food and shelter in Gaza.
Well, it's almost 0200 GMT. Coming up to 5 o'clock in the morning in Gaza, Israel and Hamas have reached a ceasefire deal. US President Donald Trump has made a statement on his Truth social media platform saying, "I'm very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the captives will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps towards a strong, durable, and everlasting."
I'm excited for them people, chat. I just pray that it works out for them. I'm very excited for them. It's good seeing them in good spirits. They smoking cigarettes. You know, they having a good time. I just hope that this really works out for them, because I couldn't imagine me and my family and the people in my circle going through what we seen the people going through. I couldn't imagine that, guys. I couldn't imagine it.
In peace, all parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel, all surrounding nations, and the United States of America. And we thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. And he ended it by saying, "Blessed are the peacemakers." Well, on the ground, celebrations have erupted in Khan Yunis in Gaza.
Right, show some more celebration.
Palestinians are in the streets chanting and dancing in response to the announcement a ceasefire has been agreed. News is spreading across the Strip, where cheering can be heard at several displacement camps. Well, it's still in the early hours of the morning in Gaza, where Palestinians are beginning to wake up to the announcement that a ceasefire has been agreed to. Scenes of jubilation are being filmed by Palestinian journalists as relief at the thought of an end to the violence spreads. All right, well, Al Jazeera's Hamda Salut is standing by for us with Israeli reaction. Alan Fisher will give us the latest out of Washington, D.C. But first, let's go to Hani Mahmoud, who's live.
Yeah, tomorrow, I hope they don't break that agreement, because if they break the agreement, it's over with. If they break this agreement and it don't go 100% like they want it to go, they already said what's going to happen. They're going to tear that place up. So I hope that Hamas does, do the right thing. I hope they do the right thing, because if they don't, it's over. So I think I'm ending right here, guys. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. I want to end it on a good note of, those people on the Gaza Strip in good spirits, cheering, smoking cigarettes. They got Nike clothes on, probably got their Jordans on too. I want to end it right here, guys. I appreciate y'all for rocking with me. I appreciate y'all for coming through and, chilling with us. I love and I appreciate y'all chat. A lot of people that come and rock with us, we really appreciate y'all. To the next one. I hope y'all have a great night. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell as we end in this stream. I love and I appreciate y'all. To the next one, I'm out. Now, chat, I gotta see what's going on with my camera, because my camera's looking kind of iffy. So hopefully tomorrow everything will run smoothly. Today has not been a great day for streaming. So I love and I appreciate y'all. To the next one, I'm out.